Hello everyone. In today's lab we're going to cover planar unwrapping as well as cylindrical unwrapping. We're going to do that creating a cylinder, obviously, and then we're going to texture that cylinder into a barrel. So we did the crate with a cube last time. This time we're going to do a barrel. So in the canvas shell I do have a few textures that you can do. I'm going to show you how I created this one, and I'm going to go ahead and just get started. So the first thing I am going to do is, you guessed it, start with a poly cylinder. I'm going to scale this up, make it a little bit longer, maybe a little bit wider, I don't know, something like that. And here, let's just make it 3, 5, and 3. And I know I need to translate this 2.5. Oh no, it's got to be a little bit more. I need to translate that 5 because I think I just tripled the size. Anyway, so there is my cube sitting directly on the grid. And now I'm going to start this little process. This is going to be similar to the last video. It's just using two different other styles to unwrap an object. So here, with my cylinder selected, the easiest way to go about this is going into my face mode and selecting just the faces around. I'm not going to worry about the top or the bottom. I'm also going to go to my UV saved panels, saved layouts, and go to Persp UV editor. And with that open, you'll see that this is the default on how Maya has it unwrapped from the beginning. So essentially you could texture it like this, but it wouldn't turn out great. So you want to be able to make the most of the information that you have. You have this full 0 to 1 area, both X and Y. And we want to maximize our images to fit as much space of that square from 0 to 1 as we can. So to start this, we've already covered the automatic unwrapping. And just to show you really quickly what it would look like, if I go to UV and do automatic, it kind of breaks it up into multiple segments, which even more than what it kind of looks like. So you'll see I've got this one, I've got this one, I've got this one, I've got this one, because it's projecting it from 4 sides. So one camera is here sort of projecting, another one's here, another one's over here, and another one's here, as well as the top and the bottom. Now the top and the bottom are okay, but I'm going to cover another way for us to do that. And a very useful tool. So what I am going to do is I'm going to move these out of the way just for now, my caps, and I'm going to go to my faces. I'm going to hover over those, and I'm going to go to UV. So obviously for this particular shape, the automatic unwrap isn't the best. So we're going to go to the cylindrical unwrap, and now you're going to see that it just unwraps it perfectly all the way around. Fits it perfectly, fits like a glove basically. And this is one seam at the edge, and just to show you which one it is, we would only have one seam on this, which is better than 4, I guess, 4, 5, 6, however many it projected in the last one. But now we only have one, so if we were worried about making sure that our model is seamless, we only have to worry about this one edge on the texture, what it's called, and I'll show you what I mean by that soon. And then I also have my caps. Now this is all fine and dandy except for the fact that it doesn't fit into my 1-to-1 section here in my ratio. So I would have to scale this down, and in order to not distort the texture, so it doesn't look like scrunched, and I'll actually show you what I mean by that here in a few moments as well, is we want to scale this uniformly. So you would want to basically scale this from here, and you'll notice nothing changes here, but on your texture it would, obviously. And you could scale it to sort of fit, and you can do it manually if you'd like. That's still too large. And I would be doing it all from, and this is a slow way of doing it, but it works. Oh. And you'll see it fits in my little 1-to-1 ratio, and I still have more than half of the top half available. So with that being said, I know we already have these unwrapped using the automatic unwrap tool. In fact, they're basically unwrapped just from the default unwrapping, but I still want to cover this technique with you. So if I hold Shift right click, go to my face mode, I'm going to highlight and then select and then deselect, so I just have the cap selected. And if you don't have it as blue, you just, in the UV editor, just click this little second one, and it stands for shaded. Shaded UV shells with semi-transparent heat to identify overlapped and reversed UVs. So like I was showing you in the previous lab, where you see one face that's red, that would be not good because it's backwards and you wouldn't be able to see it properly. So anyway, that's what it's there for. Now I'm going to show you maybe two ways to do this using a kind of planar technique method here. So I'm going to go back up here, and you can also hold spacebar and go to UV, and then you have this keyboard shortcut for whichever you're working on. So I said we were going to cover the planar, which we are. I also want to cover this little best plane tool, and I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And it says select one or more faces or 3 or more vertices, CVs, locators to define the projection plane, then press enter. So I'm just going to click and drag on the top, and you'll see it highlights everything up here, and then press enter. So I'm going to press enter. And now we get exactly what I was talking about earlier. So if something like this happens, and we're very happy with how it's unwrapped and everything, we can easily flip it if we go to modify and then click flip, and now it's back to normal. And we also have this model. Now let's just try it on the bottom real quick. So I have just the bottom selected. I don't even think I have to do that with this tool. It's going to make me reselect it anyway, and then press enter. And it worked fine on the bottom, but it didn't work fine on the top. So either way, that's another way to unwrap the top and bottom caps on this particular model. But let's go ahead and show you one other way. So I think it was the top that came out incorrectly. So if you wanted to, here's another way to do it. Go to UV, and we're going to go to our planar, and we're going to click this little box on the right side of it. That's going to open up its properties. So I know I need to project from the y-axis because it's the vertical axes up and down. I could keep the image with the width and height ratio. I'm going to leave that unchecked. I just want to see what it does from here. So bounding box and y-axis. And then let's just go ahead and hit project. And now you'll see that this little bounding box is where it's projecting from. It's projecting that texture in here, or the UV map. And now I've got 2 of them. So 3 different ways to do the same thing. And you'll notice they're basically the same exact size because it will automatically project it to the full maximum size it can inside of that 0-to-1 ratio by default. So now that I've got these 3 little UVs, now I need to make sure that they all fit. So I'm going to do a click and drag on both of them because I want them to scale at the same size so I don't get any weird distortion. And here, I'm not too concerned. I don't want to get too advanced for you, so I'm just going to try to basically make these fit in here, taking up as much space as I possibly can in my 0-to-1 ratio here. Now, this is the long way to do it, but like I said, it works. So I've got both of my shells here. Now, if I do it another way, I'm going to go to my tools, move UV shell tool. I'm going to select all of them with a click and drag. I can also arrange these another way. So is it under tools or is it under modify? Layout. So I'm going to do layout, and you'll see what that just did. Tools, layout, or modify layout. In my settings here, packing resolution 256. I don't want to get too advanced on this, but so just leave it by default. Translate shells, yes. Rotate shells, I could have clicked if I wanted it to automatically rotate to, however, whatever algorithm it uses to fit all of these in. I could have done that so it rotates, but I want it to stay like this. Texture map size 1024 is fine. And then scale mode is under uniform. And what that means is that the texture map on the resolution at which I would apply a texture to, that none of these would be distorted. It would all be uniform. I know that's a little hard to understand, but I'm going to go ahead and click apply, or layout UVs, which it already did. And ideally this would be like the perfect little setup. I would probably just move these out a little bit, just away from each other, but this would be fine to submit just something like this. If you want to maximize your resolution for this, it's not going to make that much of a difference. In what I mean by that is that basically to check the resolution of a model, they usually use these little checkerboards, right? So I'm going to assign a new material, and this is just for demonstration purposes. You can follow along if you'd like. I'm going to add a Lambert, and I'm going to delete my history because there's so much of it now. And I'm going to call this checkerboard material. And on color, I'm going to click that little, where I add a color to it. And instead of hitting the file, which we've done in the past, we're going to hit checker. And I'm going to hit 6 on the keyboard. And all of these checkers should be the same size. So these square boxes should all be the same size as these. So that's what that means. Now if you change it, it's going to change the resolution and image quality on different parts of this model, which I am fine with because you're not going to really be able to tell. But I'm going to click Move UV Shell. I'm going to highlight both of these, and I'm going to scale them. Let's scale them much larger. And now you'll see you get a lot more checkerboards, which would increase the resolution basically of your image, but you're also outside of that 0 to 1. But I just want to give you an idea of what it is. So this would have a higher sort of image quality than this would because it has smaller squares. That's the easiest way I can demonstrate it. I hope that makes sense. But because I'm not too worried about the way it's going to display on here, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Because I can. And you'll never notice it. And that's better. I'm going to stick with it like that. So I just maximized my UV space. So I'm going to tap 5. And so that's what my UVs are going to look like. So before I even get into texturing at all, I need to unwrap my objects every single time. And this is going to be a very good UV map for this. Now, if you remember from the previous lab, we are going to go to Tools, move UV Shell Tool, select all of them. So just run a click and drag over all of them. And then we're going to, if you remember, we go to Image, and then we're going to go to UV Snapshot. I'm going to keep it at 2048 by 2048. And then I'm going to go to my next lab, and I'm going to call it barrel underscore UVs. Save. And then I'm just going to go ahead and I could .jpg. That's just in case. Let's try it without it just real quick. And just see if it does save with the extension on there. So JPEG. You used to actually have to write it in, which is why I typically do it that way. But just for fun, let's try it. So let's hit apply and close. Let's go to our Photoshop file. I've already started to create some art for this thing. So I created this little barrel cap. These will be the wood planks that go around it. And now I can actually file open and open up my barrel UVs and open. And now I've got my UVs here exactly how they're laid out. So now I've got this image here. I'm going to show you how I created this pretty well. I don't know how quickly it'll go, but I want to show you how I did it because I couldn't find anything that I really liked or wanted to be able to implement. And I also included another texture, free texture website in the Canvas shell for you, so you can browse around there to see if there's anything you like. But this is going to be like my barrel cap. I'll show you how I got to this because it's a little unorthodox. You can't always find what you want, so you got to kind of create it yourself. And I'm going to do Control O. So I found this on one of the websites that I have there. And what I did was I basically just ran a quick little holding shift. And before I do that, let's create a new layer. And I'm going to go ahead and hold shift. And I just basically did something like so. So I could easily just sort of select this section that I want for the top of the barrel. And now I'm going to go back to my barrel layer and I'm going to press Control C, and then I'm going to open a new file with Control N, and I'm going to do that 2048 by 2048, hit create, and then I'm going to paste it. You'll notice it's very, very large. So I'm going to scale it down to size and press enter. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another new layer, and I'm going to do the same thing as I did before. And I'm just going to basically create the interior of this thing. Something like that. And let me see. You'll notice if I'm on my barrel layer, it just kind of cuts out of it all automatically. So you always want to create a new layer. And let's snap this to be, I guess that's 0, 0. Maybe something like that. So take it off the top line a little bit. And now let's try that just one more time. Holding shift, create a barrel sort of shape around it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my paint bucket tool, keyboard shortcut G, but you have to actually go over here because by default it'll be on the gradient tool. And you'll need to go to paint bucket tool. And I like to just fill that in with black. But what I'm also going to do is go back here, and I'm going to duplicate this by clicking and dragging over that create new layer. So I have 2 of them, and now while I have that layer 1 copy, I'm going to delete, and I'm going to hide this. I'm going to hide this. This is going to be my original tree stump. This is going to be my barrel ring, and this will be my barrel cut out interior. So now you'll see that I've got this barrel ring here, the top of the barrel ring basically, and I want to go ahead and sort of make a little bit more out of this. So I want it to have that circular round edge that looks like wood, and then I'm going to go to my planks that I downloaded. I have the link included in your canvas shell, and feel free to select any one of them. Let me see. So you could select any wood planks you like. If I go in here, these are old ones that I used, so I wanted to show you from scratch kind of how I create these things. Polyhaven. So yeah, this is the one that I'm using. But feel free to browse around and use any ones you like. Any ones are just fine. Feel free to explore and have fun and be creative. But now I'm going to go back into my Photoshop file. And this one's fine for me. I'm not too concerned about anything on it. I'm going to Control A, Control C after I open it. Actually, before I do that, let's do... So I downloaded it. And then I just opened it. Okay, Control A, Control C. And now I'm going to go over here and do Control V. And now you'll notice it's very large. So I want to hit Control T for my transform. And holding nothing, I'm not going to hold anything actually. I'm going to just shift this into place. Not holding shift, just clicking and dragging to scale with Control T, my edit transform tool. And I'm going to scale it like that. But I'm also wooden planks. I'm going to drag this underneath my barrel ring. So now you can kind of see what it looks like. The other thing I want to do is I want to get rid of the outside of this. I could make this my barrel plank or wooden planks original layer, because I like to have copies in case I ever have to go back and make any edits or changes. I can always have the original still in there to work from. It makes life a lot easier if you ever have to do that. And from here, what I'll do is, there's so many different ways I can do this. I can use my eraser tool, keyboard shortcut E, and let me hide this one, and just erase this out, these edges. There's another way I can do it that preserves the original copy, and I can do a layer mask, reveal all, and I'm going to use B for my brush tool. And see, there we go. So you'll see I was painting on the original layer, so I don't want to do that. Layer mask, reveal all. Now this is a little tricky to remember. You have to make sure that you click on this layer mask that I'm about to do. It only works on black and white. If you're more comfortable with the eraser tool, just go ahead and erase the corners. But anyway, I'm going to tap B on my keyboard, make sure I'm on that one, and hide this layer so I can actually see. And you'll notice that I'm just painting this out, so it's actually still there. But if I switch to white, it's going to paint it back in. So it's really useful to have that little tool in your back pocket. And you can just sort of paint it out. Holding shift, I'm just going to do the border real quick. Oop, too high. And you can just paint that out. the beauty of it is if you erase, you can never go back to the file because you can't undo the erase or anything from a previous version, you know? In this way, I see I might have got a little white in here. I can just switch to here and paint it back in. And I'll show you. I'm going to take out my background image and you can really see it the best. So you'll see that I kind of went too far, right? I went too far right in here. Uh-oh, not a big deal. We just go switch back to our white color and paint that back in. And you can do that anytime you want after reopening the file or anything like that. So it's a pretty useful little tool to know in Photoshop. I use it all the time. I'm just going to touch my corners again really quickly just to make sure that I am good. Okay, so that's a great start to the barrel lid of my file. So now, with that being said, I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did previously. I'm going to do a shadow. Barrel ring shadow, I guess I'll call it. And I'm just going to make it a smaller brush. Right-clicking on my screen will change it, and I have my brush tool selected. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm holding shift to just kind of, I don't feel like I got the steadiest hand in the world again to make that a perfect circle, but maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But if you just hold shift, it's gonna, and wherever you click next will be the next spot in which it draws a line. And if you do this right along the edge, I could do it just like that. So I got a little shadow. I can always change the way it displays. I could do an overlay or a soft light, so this way you still get some of that look at it. If I wanted to add a little bit extra, I could. Wherever I like, and that shadow, little light up here, right? That was a little too dark. But you get the idea. So I really do like the shift click. It really does help stay right around that edge of that. But anyway, so now I've got my little shadow around it, and if I wanted to add anything else to it, I could. A couple other techniques and things that I could do is I could start to try to match these colors a little bit closer. It's probably going to be fastest if I just try to match this to the exterior of it. So I could do like image, adjustments, hue and saturation. I can maybe bring down the saturation. Or maybe I need to bring it up. Give it a little bit more of that sort of hardy color to it. I don't know. You get the idea, and I can just press OK, and then if I wanted to do anything else, image, adjustments, brightness and contrast, you could click this little use legacy. It's just basically like using a different renderer. Click auto, and I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to go with the auto one. I think it matched it up pretty well to the colors of that barrel ring. You could do like a stamp on here. What do they call it? One of those iron rods that are super hot with a stamp on it that says like established since, some kind of brand name. Just throwing ideas out there. I'm sticking with this. I think this is more than enough. But there's the top of my barrel. Now, the side of my barrel is, that's the one I created earlier. There's my barrel UVs. So there's my wood plank. So I want to save this one as a barrel top diffuse. class example, and I'm going to save that out as a Photoshop file. Also going to save this out or export it out as a JPEG. Nope, this time I'm going to select PNG, and I want the transparency checked on it. So JPEGs can't transfer over the transparency channel, whereas a PNG can. So I'm going to stick with the PNG for this one. This one's a great example to do that with. So PNG, and I'm going to press export. And I hope I saved the other one in here. I'm going to click save. So let's see where I did save it. Lab 9. Yeah, okay, looks like I did. Lab 9. All right. So from here, I have these wood planks, and I'm going to, again, copy these. Control A to select all, Control C to copy. I'm going to go to my barrel UVs and then hold Control and V and go to paste, and then press Control T to free transform, and then rotate this and scale it to size. And it looks like I can bring down my opacity just a bit. Just want to make sure that, zoom in just a bit. I want to make sure that I'm inside or out, covering the entire thing. So something like that. All right, and move it over a pixel or two, pixel down. And I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to press enter, and I'm going to bring my opacity back all the way up to 100%. And I'm going to try to see what this looks like. I just duplicated it by clicking and dragging that layer down here to the create new layer. And I'm going to just see if I can just quickly get away with something like that. And let's click on it real quick. Move it over once, maybe. I'd say that looks pretty decent. I'm good with it. Another thing I may want to do is rotate it, just so you can actually see where it's pretty repetitive there. But either one of this would work just fine as well, which I am totally good with. I might want to keep it this way so it doesn't repeat itself on that seam, and I'll get to that in a second. I think that's pretty good. Now, one of the things I would say is I've got right on the edge, it doesn't have a space in between my planks. So if I wanted to add something like that, just to make sure that it comes across seamlessly, I could always grab my little rectangular tool, and I'll include this in your file. I'm going to select both of these. So let me rename them first. Barrel planks left, barrel planks right, and I'm going to select both of them. I'm going to duplicate them, just dragging to my create new layer button here. I'm going to press Control E to merge them down, and these are going to be my barrel planks. So I can hide these, but I still have the originals of which I started with. One last little thing, like I said I was going to do, is just in case, I'm going to grab this one tiny little section. I'm going to copy and paste it, grab my move tool, and this time I'm just going to drag this over to the end. I'm just using my arrow tool. I know it's taken forever, right? But the reason I'm doing that is because let's see if you can kind of see that line there. Kind of not. It's kind of hard to see, but let's go ahead and just make this 50%. 40% works. Zoom in, go to this one using my move tool. Try that. Bring this back up. I think that'll work. I don't, it's barely noticeable. And we know it's there, but if I really wanted to get into it, I could make it look perfect, but we'll worry about that another time. So now that I've got that done, I also have the barrel lid that I created. Now, really quickly, you'll notice I have this big gap here that's from the crack that was inside of that original tree stump, which I'm going to drag to the top. So it might look a little weird if someone, were to look at this. So let's hide this one. Okay, so what I want to do, I'm going to show you this really cool little tool that I love. I'm going to grab my clone stamp tool. So this one right here, keyboard shortcut S, I'm going to click and hold and make sure I'm on my clone stamp. And how this works is I'm going to hold Alt. I'm also going to bring my brush size down a little bit. I'm going to hold Alt and click. So it's going to stamp that. I'm basically copying that section right there, right? And then I can go ahead and start to, and I'll stamp from another spot a little bit lower. And then I could erase. Now I could have created a clipping mask, but it is what it is. I'm fine with it. Holding Shift, something like that. And now I don't have that huge keyboard shortcut S. Something like that. So I don't have that huge gap at the top, and I just kind of use my clone stamp tool. I would have done something similar for that little crack on the far left side for the blending. And also if I go back in here and go to my spot healing brush, this can be a really useful tool as well. Looks like keyboard shortcut J. And what this does is it kind of grabs pixels from around it and inside where you're clicking, and you just do like quick little clicks, and it starts to sort of blend things together as well. Both these tools are really great to know. So that's one way you can kind of start to get, looks very repetitive up there, probably because I was using that clone stamp as well as the spot healing, but that's a little bit better. And I just used the spot healing brush there. So those are two really useful tools when trying to create some kind of seamless looking things. I love them. I think they're super awesome. And I'm very happy now with my barrel top. And Control D to deselect. Now I want to select everything on here, or I can re-export it. Control S to save my Photoshop file, and then File, Export as, and I'm exporting it as a PNG, and export, and I'm going to export it right over that one. Yes, I want to replace it. And now I have my original Photoshop file that I can always come back to and make edits as necessary. So if I ever wanted to make this one right here have a little bit stronger of a space in between like the others do, I can, without having to unjust that one layer. It's just a more efficient way to work. So now back to my barrel UVs. I've got this is plank space scene. And then I'm going to create a, I'm going to do file open under lab 9. I hope this is the PNG. Nope. Did I save it in here? Textures. Barrel top diffuse. Where did I export this to? File open. Well, let's do file export. I just have to figure out where I exported it to. I'm sure you guys run into this too as well. Export lab 9. Okay, it should be in the regular file open. I guess this is it. Yep. So this is the PNG image, and you'll notice it's all just one flattened image, and it also has the transparent background. So if I wanted to add a background to this image, which I don't, but I'm going to show you, you can. So with my barrel top layer, I'm going to Control A, Control C, jump over to my barrel UVs and paste it, and then Control T to resize it. And I'm going to bring it right over that and bring my opacity down so I can see where I'm working. Ooh. And I'm pressing Control minus to zoom in and out, and I'm just going to have it go just to the outside of my UVs here. And I'm going to just shift it over a couple pixels, maybe down one, and I'd say that'll work, and press enter. Now I'm going to bring my opacity back up, and I'm going to say barrel top. Oh, which one? I don't know which one's going to be the top or the bottom. Barrel top left. And I'm going to click and drag this over my create new layer box. So we barrel top right. Control T to shift it over. And then I'm going to also again bring down my opacity so I can see through it. And I'm going to just shift this into place. And I'm just using my arrow tool to move it pixel by pixel. I'd say that's pretty good. And then I'm going to bring my opacity back up. And now my next issue is that I changed the colors on these, that I want to do the same for these. I'm going to duplicate both of these layers, merge them together, and then I'm going to just play around with my hue and saturation under image adjustments, hue saturation, try to replicate what I did last time. That ain't working too well. Let's go to image adjustments and do brightness contrast, use legacy auto. I think I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to try this one more time. I got to play around with the color balance or something first to try to a little bit more brown in there, kind of like a orangey kind of brown. Let's just try OK. Image adjustments. All I know is that it's better than it was before. I'll try that. We're gonna make it a little bit brighter. I'm just trying to match the color up with it, just to show you how I go about doing this. Press OK. Color balance. Let's try it again. I'd say that's pretty close. We'll go with that. And adjustments, brightness, contrast one last time. Let's just up the contrast a little bit. Give it a little bit more of that wood grain pull. Click OK. All right, I'm happy with it. I think it's close enough. It's not perfect, but it's close enough. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to save this out, Control-Shift-S, and I'm going to save it out as a barrel. Diffuse, and hit save. And I'm saving that out as a Photoshop file, and I'm going to do File, Export, Export As. I could do a JPEG if I like. PNG will be fine too. I'll just do a JPEG, make the quality as high as possible, hit Export, Barrel Diffuse, save. And now back in Maya, you'll see I spent more time trying to get the texture right than I did actually unwrapping it. So I'm going to select this. I have that Lambert checker material on, and I'm going to switch it. I'm going to go to Object Mode. I'm going to do an Assign New Material. I'm going to do Arnold AI Standard Surface. And I'm going to rename this Barrel Arnold Material. And I'm going to check this little checker box next to the color, this little checker box, go to File, Open, that's weird, and then locate it, click Open, and now let's see if it worked. Didn't look like it did. It was really weird. Do that again. Maya can be weird sometimes, so you sometimes just got to roll through the punches that it throws at you. And there we go. Now I've got it. I could even make those circles a little bit larger, actually, or not the circles, these planks to sort of match the size of this. And realistically, it's because these are so large, and that was the issue I was talking about earlier. But either way, I'm fine with it. I'm totally content with it. Here's my little barrel that I've created. I can always add more to it. Kind of looks pretty good. Can you see a seam on it? Let's see if we can see where that seam was. It would be, I can just go to it because I know where it is just from the file. So I'm literally right on top of it. You can, I think that's it. But like I said, it's near impossible to see. And we basically just created a seamless texture doing that. Now, again, I want to show you one last thing, and here's the bottom of it. I think it turned out pretty good, this little barrel. The last thing I would like to show you, and I mean, a difference from this being a very, very simple model to adding a texture to it can make a night and day difference. So I really am pleased with the way this turned out. Here's one of those planks that I was talking about, where if you wanted to create a little bit extra space through it, but I'm fine with it. I would next add a normal map to it, which I'm going to go to. I will go to my normal map conversion site here, click my file, and now it does it for me. So I'm gonna invert the height, I think. It looks a little weird when I do it that way. Let's just see. No, I don't want it to be that. Let's see, level. I'm gonna go with it like this. So I did the Z range as -1 to +1. And I'm gonna turn the height off. So it's just looking like this. I'm just playing around with these little settings to sort of try to pull some more detail out of it. No. Strength. It's really hard to see in that tiny little image. Let's see if that helps. I'm good with it. All right, so I'm gonna hit download. Open it up. I'm gonna cut. Go to lab 9, paste, barrel, normal map. And then I'm going to also do a specular. What's this? Square? Linear? I'll stick with linear. Now again, I don't want this to be super bright. So I'm just going to start to it's almost like range is almost like the contrast. This is almost like the brightness. So something like that should work. I'll go ahead and click download. Open that up. I'm going to cut that and put it into my folder. And then I'm going to rename it barrel specular. And now I'm going to assign that. And we can open it up in Photoshop just to show you what it looks like in a much bigger image. Open, and then drag this over. So here's what I started with. Here's my diffuse texture. Here's my normal map that I converted. And here is my specular map. So I'm going to go into Maya and I'm going to assign under specular the color. Click the little checker box next to the color, hit File. Click the little open folder. Locate your file. This one's going to be the specular. Save that as a PNG. Click open. So I'm not going to have that much shine to it. Also, what I will do is go to here and I can play around with these, but since it's basing it off the map, it's not going to do too much. But you could play around with it and see if it comes up with anything. But when it's pulling that info from the specular map, it's not going to change a whole lot. And then I'm also going to go to geometry and go to this tab right here, geometry. Click the little checker box, hit File, and then hold on. I just undid that. Under bump mapping, did I click next to the opacity? I meant to click next to the bump mapping file. There we go. Use as, this is so important, use as tangent space normals. Must click use as tangent space normals. Then I'm going to click this little arrow, and now I'm going to open my normal map. And I'm going to, there we go, normal map. And you're going to see right away, it really adds all that grain and depth to it, almost too much. So I'm going to tap 7 on my keyboard because I just want to show you without any lighting, it doesn't really portray well. It just looks really dark and grungy. But you see you literally can see the difference instantly on how it's pulling that info from. So I want to go ahead and show you what it'll look like if I do Arnold, lights, and sky dome light. And now I'm going to tap 7 on my keyboard. It's going to look a lot more natural, but and that's without even doing a quick render. You can even rotate your light. I don't know how. I don't think it's going to change it at all without rendering it, but and you can also change the intensity of your light. So depending on how bright or dark you want it, you can always play around with that. By default, it's at 1, but I think that's a pretty good start to this barrel texture, and I hope you enjoyed this lab. Feel free to shoot me any messages, questions, concerns, anything like that. Canvas inbox is the fastest way to get a hold of me. I hope this was helpful for you. I hope I covered everything that you had questions on. If you have additional ones, just let me know. If you have technical issues, computer's not acting right or something like that, I will do everything I can to help. But I just don't, there's only so many things that I can control and help you with, but please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I really hope you enjoyed this lab, and stay tuned for the next one, and I look forward to any comments you guys have. But thank you so much, and stay tuned for the next one. All right. Have a good day.